kicked out as a teenager due to untrue gossip started by my sibling. Much later, my folks notice my achievements and insist on financial support after deserting me. I'm a 28-year-old woman with an identical twin brother. During our upbringing, my twin and I faced vastly unequal handling from our guardians. Our parents truly appeared persuaded for whatever motive that my brother was meant for extraordinary things, whereas I was labeled the family disappointment, simply because I preferred engaging in athletics or forming bonds with peers over academics. They regularly pitted us against each other, which was discouraging and damaged my confidence early on. As a kid, I had to observe my brother enjoying lavish celebrations on our shared birthday with his buddies while I was sidelined like an extra. He frequently hosted overnight stays with his pals, whereas I was prohibited from even inviting my friends to our home. Truthfully, I despised every moment of my early years. The sole family member who truly showed concern for me was my grandma. Whenever she came over, she always presented me with my preferred sweets, and sometimes secretly gave me a bit of cash so I could indulge myself afterward. As time went by, this obvious preference for my twin brother slowly evolved into psychological mistreatment aimed at me. My parents would publicly ridicule my school performance and diminish my interests. It seemed like, regardless of my efforts, I could never fulfill their ideals of being the ideal offspring. Even though I excelled in sports, they prevented me from joining after-school programs because they insisted I focus solely on schoolwork like my brother. It was exasperating, and I felt powerless as a youngster. Later, during my second year of high school, I was punished once more, and this instance, the offense, possessing Snapchat on my device. I had committed no wrongdoing except, like most adolescents my age, I had installed this application to keep in touch with my companions. But in my parents' view, this was a major violation and a betrayal of their confidence since they had banned me from interacting with my friends. They reacted furiously and scattered my belongings across the room. They proceeded to remove the doors from their frames and declared that I would have zero privacy while residing in their household. Seeing my parents mistreat me like that, my twin brother, rather than standing by me, worsened my situation. The harmful atmosphere fostered by our parents' unfair behaviors enabled him to manipulate circumstances for his gain. He developed a habit of fabricating stories about me, wrongly blaming me for actions I never took so he could escape accountability. If he took something without permission, he'd easily redirect the fault to me, and my parents, already predisposed to assume the worst of me, eagerly accepted his deceptions. He would belittle me among my schoolmates and mock my looks. Nevertheless, I maintained a large group of friends at school since I was friendly and eager to connect. My twin, on the other hand, had social difficulties, and he began to envy my ability to converse with others while he, being shy, felt uncomfortable. This resentment peaked at our 14th birthday gathering when nobody attended for him. I don't know why his friends ditched him, but in sharp contrast, my friends treated me to frozen treats, and I enjoyed a fantastic day overall. This enraged my brother even more. For retaliation, my brother commenced circulating false tales at school depicting me as an entitled troublemaker. He would wrongly inform everyone that I was supposedly harming him physically at home because our parents favored him. Without my knowledge, he escalated to a troubling extent. To create proof, he would hit himself, deliberately causing wounds such as a swollen eye or sore arm. The following day, he would boldly enter school, showing off the self-caused damages as evidence of my alleged aggression and invent narratives. Whenever our parents inquired about the wounds, he would deceive them by claiming it resulted from harmless pursuits like sports with his buddies. The fabrications involving his supposed injuries began to spread, and individuals started accepting his twisted account. Soon enough, murmurs spread, and even my friends viewed me with doubt. Initially, I observed minor shifts. Friends who previously talked with me in the corridors abruptly grew aloof. Offers to join group outings dwindled. It was as if a change had occurred, and folks were reluctant to link with the allegedly entitled girl charged with aggression. One day, I gathered the bravery to question my former closest friend about the shift in our relationship. She disclosed how my twin brother had been disseminating gossip about me. She unveiled the elaborate falsehoods he had shared with all, blaming me for deeds I never committed. I was stunned by her revelations. The sensation was a blend of incredulity and disloyalty, as though the foundation under me had collapsed. My brother, whom I shared my childhood with, was propagating untruths about me, charging me with acts I wouldn't contemplate. It was a disloyalty that wounded profoundly, leaving me with a lump in my gut and a burdened spirit. I challenged my brother that afternoon following classes, but he opted to disregard me. I implored him to cease the deceptions, but he grinned smugly and said I merited isolation. I was speechless since his falsehoods and conduct were beginning to frighten me. I wished to speak with my parents, but feared they would side with my brother. The solitude hurt, particularly because I had always been receptive to friendships. It seemed like my brother's envy-driven deceptions were dismantling the relationships I had cultivated over time. Educators also started hearing the gossip. It was an unreal ordeal, as if I existed in an alternate world where my genuine character was eclipsed by the spiteful tales woven by my own twin. The falsehoods had expanded past simple adolescent chatter. They were now influencing how people genuinely saw me. The vicious rumor soon arrived at my principal's attention, and then my greatest fear materialized. The principal promptly summoned me and my brother to his office along with our parents to address these supposed rumors. I sat there, pulse racing, as the principal insisted on honesty. I wished my brother would finally confess, but instead, he reinforced the lies. He directly informed the principal that, yes, the rumors were accurate and portrayed me as this intimidator who assaulted him when our parents were absent. I couldn't accept it. Astonishment overwhelmed me as my brother persisted in crafting this distorted tale about how I was resentful toward him for receiving more affection from our parents. It was entirely fabricated, but he adhered to his narrative firmly. My mother started weeping upon hearing my brother's account, embracing him as if he were a champion. My father attempted to soothe my brother, assuring him it was courageous to voice it, and that he would ensure no harm came to him thereafter. I attempted to justify myself, imploring the principal that it was all invented. I felt like I was submerging in a flood of allegations, frantically attempting to reach air. But my brother continued, maintaining that I was this furious, aggressive individual venting my irritations on him daily. My mother's sobs persisted as she clutched my brother, casting blaming stares at me. It was like battling a barrier of faith in my brother's concocted tale. My principal scolded me harshly, stating the institution wouldn't condone intimidation, and these were reasons for suspension. I begged him not to suspend me, but he declined, saying he couldn't overlook it. I implored him, tears flowing, striving to convey that I hadn't harmed my brother. The principal resolutely stated I would be suspended for 10 days to serve as a warning against bullying. It struck me deeply, and I wept harder, essentially pleading for reconsideration. My parents, furious and ashamed by the ordeal, hauled me from the principal's room. I resisted leaving. I desired to argue my position and make them comprehend, but they refused. We departed the school, my heart laden with aggravation and shame. Upon arriving home, events took a severe shift. My father abruptly began gathering my possessions. I was astounded, bewildered, and clueless about the situation. My mother questioned his actions, but he yelled that he couldn't permit me to reside under the same roof as my brother any longer. I was sobbing, nearly kneeling, and begged my brother to reveal the truth, but he remained indifferent, unaffected by my feelings. My father kept packing my items and then tossed the bag into our entrance hall. I grasped my father's legs, still imploring him not to evict me. It resembled a horror unfolding. He declared that a bully like me didn't belong in his home, and that he would request his mother, my grandmother, to collect me if she chose. It felt as if my world had shattered. I stood there dazed amid my scattered items in the hall, expelled from my own residence. Eventually, my grandmother arrived. She collected all my belongings and assisted in loading them into the vehicle. Guiding me to the front seat, she ensured my safety belt was fastened before approaching my parents' entrance. She pressed the bell, and when my father answered, she began shouting at him for handling me this way. With firm resolve, she cautioned him that if he ever neared me or attempted to reach me again, she wouldn't delay in contacting authorities or child services, as his treatment of a minor like me could lead to imprisonment. My mother, trying to shift responsibility, claimed it was my doing. However, my grandmother rejected it outright. She remained steadfast, protecting me, stressing that I was merely a child undeserving of such cruelty. That was the initial occasion I realized my grandmother's strength. She didn't yield to my parents, and unlike their beliefs, she trusted me. Finally, we departed, abandoning my childhood home, the only location I'd ever known. I can't adequately express the immense agony I endured then. I recall simply weeping in bed and refusing food despite my grandmother's pleas. I explained what my brother had done, and she was appalled too. She reassured me that she accepted my version, and I was relieved to have at least one supporter. When the 10-day suspension ended, returning to school seemed like entering a predator's lair. As I walked the known corridors, my peers' expressions conveyed judgment, hushed talks, and sideways looks. The burden of the baseless charges lingered. Meanwhile, my brother completely overlooked me and behaved as if I were invisible. He had befriended some who trusted his narrative and viewed him as the sufferer of my assaults. Regardless of my attempts to share my perspective with anyone, it was ignored. I became an outsider, marked with an unfair stigma that stuck like a shadow. Wherever I went, the classrooms, the lunch area, the halls, the gazes I encountered were full of scorn and suspicion. I turned into a solitary figure. I would lower my gaze and attend lessons, eat alone in the dining hall, and head straight home. I had no companions, and it appeared nobody desired my presence. During all this, my parents never once contacted me to inquire about my welfare. My grandmother repeatedly assured me this wasn't my fault and that things would improve eventually. I finished high school with solid marks and anticipated college, hoping for a better existence. It was only upon attending college that I first tasted true independence. Nobody monitored me constantly, nobody compared my scores, and nobody competed against me. I encountered people and built bonds with similar individuals. Despite the mental and bodily scars from my family and classmates over the years, I focused on leaving it behind and savoring the university life fully. In this period, I uncovered my talent for creating content. I had always aspired to write but doubted its long-term viability, so I abandoned the idea. But for extra income, I began freelancing as a writer. I registered on several platforms that connected me with notable customers. This way, I gradually assembled a collection of my projects. Through college, I sustained this side job and never requested funds from my parents. Upon graduating, rather than pursuing an office position, I recognized I could make content creation my primary occupation. I was succeeding thanks to various clients and enduring professional ties that involved me in numerous assignments. Having a valid freelance profession not only granted financial autonomy, but also enabled global travel as a remote worker. Journeying aided my recovery from past traumas, though it wasn't simple. I saved diligently and invested in myself. Over time, I've explored much of the globe with plenty remaining. The only individual I regarded as family through it all was my grandmother, whom I cherished deeply. She was saddened when I relocated, but comprehended my need for self-reliance. Amid my busy routine, I ensured to support her when possible. I would see her on weekends, frequently sharing dinners or relaxing on the veranda, immersed in discussions from youthful anecdotes to current events. On weekends, I would devote full afternoons to aiding with home tasks, or joining her for a relaxed stroll in the nearby green space. Lately, I completed one of my career's key assignments. I can't name the company, but I was fortunate to craft articles and item overviews for them. After finishing, I asked the group I collaborated with to provide favorable feedback on my site, which they gladly did. I captured images of some reviews to share on my social media, knowing partnering with this entity was significant. As anticipated, many fellow writers contacted me to praise my accomplishment and even shared my post to amplify it. This led to inquiries from unknowns seeking assistance with their sites. My kin observed this too, and some messaged congratulations. Eventually, my university's head contacted me. He approached after noticing my progress and invited me to the campus for a talk to guide students on developing a writing career. I was anxious since public speaking isn't my strength, but I chose to try and accepted. Standing before attentive audiences, recounting my path and advice, felt like closure. In my address, I discussed the challenges I overcame and my efforts to support myself through tough times. It was truly rewarding to motivate others and aid the writing field's advancement. Some segments of my talk went popular in online communities as folks connected with them. It was satisfying to gain recognition for my dedication at last. Last week, I was asked to appear on a regional broadcast station. It was a program on writing's advantages, and they wanted me to discuss my path and tips with the audience. I felt uneasy yet thrilled by the chance. On the program, I covered my background, the value of customer endorsements, and how a basic thank you message could lead to amazing prospects. The chance to connect with more people and encourage additional professionals was both modest and thrilling. When it broadcasted, I posted clips on my social media too, proud of the TV invitation. This is how my kin and extended family learned of my career success. Since my parents never mentioned me to others, they were unaware I collaborated with famous companies and appeared on television. Thus, news rapidly circulated in the family. I suppose this broadcast interview eventually reached my parents because days later, while focused on another task with my phone muted, I checked and found 6 unanswered calls from my mother. I was genuinely surprised to see her contact after such a prolonged absence. After years of quiet, I couldn't understand her motive for calling. I tentatively returned the call and she answered right away. I inquired if all was fine and my mother began praising me. My father, likely nearby, joined the talk too. He started asking about my life and health, and I responded casually. It didn't seem odd until they probed my current earnings. I stated it wasn't their concern, and my father said as relatives, I shouldn't be reluctant to share my salary. I replied I was prospering monetarily. Upon this, my mother described their current hardships. My suspicions arose. Essentially, our dialogue went like this. Mom, we're retired and have wanted to update the home for some time. It's deteriorating, but we lack funds. Me, all right, Mom, your accomplishments inspire us. After viewing your TV segment today, we figured you might assist with the updates. Dad, we're kin after all. Don't hesitate to contribute some income to us. We could truly benefit. Me, is this a prank? Why seek funds from me after ignoring me for years? I don't know what prompted your contact, and while I value the praise, I won't aid you. At this, my mother called me ungrateful and insisted I support the family. My father added that as parents, they merit care and this was minimal. I was furious and wanted to confront them. Suddenly, I thought instead of debating, I should make them learn never to exploit me after years of abuse. I informed my parents I'd assist only if they met my terms. My father asked what they were. Boldly, I stated my requirement. For my aid, they must openly confess, before our kin and acquaintances, that my brother orchestrated the damaging gossip that ruined my image. I wanted them to embarrass my brother similarly to how they shamed me by trusting his deceptions and schemes. I demanded they own their behaviors and recognize the suffering they inflicted. Upon my stringent stipulation, my father queried its need. My mother said it was needless and we could discuss privately without outsiders, but I stood firm. This term was fixed, essential for any future help. As friction grew, my father yelled, affirming his paternal authority, and stressed my obligation to aid family in distress. My mother desperately pushed me to act correctly and assist, noting the years raising me. I couldn't ignore the hypocrisy in their plea. I recalled the history that they evicted me and my grandmother reared me, not them. They grew more upset, but I firmly said if they sought connection and my monetary aid henceforth, the facts must be publicly admitted and my brother face repercussions. Since that talk, my parents have persistently tried calling, but I'm disregarding them. I'm beginning to wish I hadn't returned their call. I'd like to know if I'd truly be wrong for not aiding my parents whatsoever. Update 1, it's been a chaotic week since posting my tale, and the backing and motivation from all has been immense. It's comforting to realize I'm not isolated now. I'm pleased most concur I shouldn't interact with my parents or contemplate helping after their actions. I set that condition knowing it was essentially unfeasible for them. I realize they adore my brother excessively, and even if they've learned of his lies by now, they'll never subject him to what I endured. Today, my brother texted nastily after my parents attempted contact again, and I ignored. Here's his message. Hey sis, long time no see, and I can say every day sans you has been wonderful. I heard Mom and Dad contacted you with your wild demand. They'll never comply, you know. They never cared for you and won't harm me. I confess I lied about you 15 years back, but that's ancient. Quit being self-centered and let go of history. You're single and without kids anyhow, so why not assist with their home fixes and upgrades? Do what's proper and be a superior child. Reading it hurt like a wound. The boldness to downplay my hardships and my terms revealed his remorselessness. The guilt attempt by noting my single, child-free state added rudeness. His suggestion I prioritize their wants over my welfare was insulting and showed his low regard for me. Driven by anger and a quest for fairness, I resolved to act and uncover the long-concealed truth. I composed an email to my parents and near kin, detailing the anguishing aspects of my youth and the unjust handling in our family home. In the message, I outlined the rigid and suppressive setting under my parents and their disparity toward my twin brother. The email also covered the spiteful and false rumor my brother propagated at school, causing grave outcomes and harming my standing. I described how my parents discarded me, and without my grandmother, I might have ended up homeless or worse. At the close, I urged all to view my brother's text. I included a capture where he owned his lies. It was an evident admission I hoped would reveal the enduring deceptions. I dispatched the email an hour ago and anticipate chaos once my parents and brother see it. I'll share next on their reactions. Update 2, it's been a month since my prior update, and much has transpired this month. As expected, my family exploded after the email. My parents faced backlash from kin who didn't know the favoritism and mental harm's depth. Many relatives contacted me, saying they were unaware and sorry for not supporting me. My brother and parents bombarded me with increasingly hostile and threatening texts, so I consulted an attorney who issued a cease and desist order. It warned against further contact or face serious legal action. I think this intimidated them as they ceased. My grandmother believes I acted correctly by informing all and backs me fully. She's the only one I value, so I'm glad she's supportive. Update 3, it's been 2 months since my last update. I'm pleased to say my life is progressing nicely currently. Career-wise, my writing venture is thriving. Requests for talks at events and shows keep coming, establishing me as a valued expert in my area. I'm as bonded with my grandmother as always. I recently took a week off work to enjoy time with her. She's into planting lately and taught me about diverse blooms and plants in her yard. The times with her, be it meals, deep talks, or quiet companionship, are my treasured recollections. My family hasn't reached out post the lawyer's notice, so I'm relieved they're distant. On a personal note, I've begun counseling to hopefully mend myself. I believe this is the final update for now.